What's up, everybody? Rob here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you had a great holiday with your family or enjoyed it to the best of your abilities with everything going on, and a fun Black Friday. Never really understood either holiday, to be honest with you, of Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Thanksgiving is kind of modeled after taking the land from the Indians in a sense, but we're supposed to I don't want to get too into that. But Black Friday, if you want some advice, you're going to get the same discount, if not more, at New Year's, because all the stores are going to want to refresh their inventory. I feel like Black Friday is kind of like Halloween for the candy companies, where it's like, what a great situation for us if we could just have everybody buy candy. Halloween, perfect. What a great situation for us to liquidate our store's inventory. Black Friday, perfect. So I don't really buy the whole parade around the malls and beat each other up for $50 off a TV when you could just probably get a same discount on Amazon or whatever. Just a little heads up. Anyways, Peter Schiff did a video, something along the lines of Bitcoin takes a dump on Thanksgiving. And it reminds me kind of like that scene from Fast and Furious when Vin Diesel looks at Paul Walker and he's like, Paul Walker hits his nitrous, and then all of a sudden he looks over at him, and this is Fast and Furious 1, and he's like, too soon. And then he hits his and he passes him up. I feel like it's going to be one of those situations for Peter Schiff where it's like, too soon, buddy. But I wanted to make this video as more of a part 2, and rather than say it at the end, in the end of the video, I kind of gave my respects to Peter Schiff, but I would like to say in the beginning of this video so people don't really get me wrong, because about 90% of what Peter Schiff says, I agree 100%. I actually kind of I'm almost a fanboy of Peter Schiff. I've always looked after the things he'd done. I love the libertarian type movement of a smaller government and all of the things he preaches and stands for. There were people that sent me memes of Peter Schiff hiding in a corner holding a gold bar. And if you're going to make those memes, you got to put me with him in a sense, except a little bit of Bitcoin on my shoulder or something, But my whole argument against Peter Schiff is not to say that he's completely wrong, because I think he's very much right on 90% of what he says, and the 10% is a couple of different things, mainly Bitcoin, that I disagree with. And it's very simple, and I want to break it down on some points I missed out on in my last video and make this more of a part 2 situation here. So the first thing I wanted to get out of the way, I wanted to make sure that I have a lot of respect for Peter Schiff, and the people in the gold and silver community and the people in the Bitcoin community should have a lot of respect for Peter Schiff, whether he's right, wrong, or indifferent on this Bitcoin situation. He is right about what he says about the government, and he is right about all of the preachings that he's trying to instill and say, hey, this government is getting out of control. It's getting way too big. It should be much smaller, and it's gotten past the point of no return. All the things he says, I very much so agree with. Just this one situation on Bitcoin, I think he's very wrong. And I'm just going to say my first main point that I missed out on. Peter Schiff often talks about mining stocks. I have never been a fan of mining stocks personally, because you are taking a risk that they are going to be able to find said gold and silver, precious metals in this mining stock. And I know they say that, they map this area and they have a very good idea of how much per square foot or whatever is in this dirt. But you are taking a very serious risk when you're buying a mining stock. And that's something that Peter Schiff openly preaches. Now, my point on this is that is a very speculative play. There are mining stocks that are very overvalued, and they are pricing in that they are hoping that this gold and silver is there. They are hoping that they can mine it at an efficient rate to be profitable. All of these different things are definitely a serious risk. You are taking a risk when you are buying into a mining stock. It is not a certainty by any means, but you are hoping that play will be worthwhile. If you are willing to buy mining stocks, Peter, on the speculation that they could blow up like that and to be a very profitable venture, that's my argument for Bitcoin. My argument for Bitcoin is the upside is so large in Bitcoin that it is worthy of a small 5 to 10% position in my decentralized portfolio. I am not an all-in Bitcoin person. I have much, much more precious metals. Everybody who knows me knows that I have much, much more precious metals than anything else. Bitcoin, I specifically believe that it is worth the off chance as a schmuck insurance policy that if it blows up to the upside, it's like a mining stock in Peter Schiff's portfolio. It's risky. It's speculative. However, the upside is tremendous. If you're willing to take a risk on a mining stock, and that's not owning the physical metal, that is a speculation that this company can do well. You have Bitcoin. It ends at 21 million. You have the speculation that it can get further and further adopted, and seeing that Cash App is in Bitcoin, seeing that PayPal is in Bitcoin, seeing these different stocks now that are hedge funds that are getting into Bitcoin. And that's what he was talking about a lot in his last video that he posted on Thanksgiving, which I think was a little too soon because Bitcoin's already rebounding over 18,000 again. But if you're willing to take that risk on a mining stock, you should be willing to take that risk on a small position in Bitcoin in a decentralized portfolio. That's my first argument. They are both speculative plays. Neither is a certainty. It's something that's worthy of the risk to reward. That's how I look at it. That's my first point I wanted to talk about that I missed out on in the first video. The next thing I wanted to say is this bull run in Bitcoin is far different than the first one. The first run to 20,000, Bitcoin wasn't nearly talked about as much. Bitcoin was not nearly as accessible as it is today. And that's the main point. It's not nearly as accessible back on that first bull run as it is today. I buy Bitcoin through Cash App. I buy Bitcoin pretty much weekly. I buy a little bit as I can afford it weekly, just on a consistent basis through my Cash App. I buy a little bit through Coinbase, but Cash App makes it very, very simple. If someone, sends you money for dinner and you have money in your Cash App, like, I could change it for Bitcoin. It makes it so accessible and so simple on that platform. And that wasn't available on that first bull run. Now PayPal is getting into Bitcoin. So when people have their money sitting in their Cash App, sitting in their Venmo, sitting in their PayPal, and they can just easily convert it into Bitcoin, if there is a FOMO situation, a fear of missing out situation, and the general masses goes, wow, I want to get in on Bitcoin, the learning curve is dramatically lower than it was the first time around. If you have a Cash App, which a lot of people already have Cash App in place, it's very simple to buy a Bitcoin through a Cash App. I get nothing from saying that. And also, just in general, I get nothing from preaching Bitcoin. If anything, I would have much more incentive to go, buy gold from mineralexchange.com. Go to mineralexchange.com, sign up on our email list, and we have gold and silver for you there at mineralexchange.com. That would be me preaching something that I would get value out of because that's my company. But to say I'm bullish on Bitcoin, I get nothing out of that. I get nothing saying that. It's just, that's how you know it's genuine. I have I have holding in Bitcoin, but I have no real monetary benefit to be telling you all about Bitcoin and why I hold some in my portfolio. In the off chance that it does get adopted, and seeing that these companies are picking it up. And these are not small companies. PayPal is a company over $100 billion. You got Cash App. And this is billions and billions of dollars behind these companies, and they are buying Bitcoin, and they are making it easy to use Bitcoin on their platforms. This is happening. This is right now. So if the likelihood that Bitcoin was going to get adopted was 1%, the likelihood now that PayPal is jumping in and Cash App is jumping in, it might bring it up to 5-10%. The statistical likelihood of Bitcoin getting adopted is just getting more and more probable by the day. That's why I believe Bitcoin is worth a speculation, just like a mining stock might be worth a speculation. So it's not like Peter, and I'm talking directly to Peter Schiff, it's not like you don't take risk. You take risk in your portfolios. There are mining stocks that aren't going to pan out. Just like you say that governments could outlaw Bitcoin. Well, What happened to Robert Kiyosaki in China on gold? Can you refresh my memory? I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, and he was doing a mining operation in China, and they kicked him out, and they took his gold. So that there's situations like that on the other side of the fence as well. And I'm a gold bull. I'm a platinum bull. I'm mainly a platinum and silver bull if you've watched my videos, but I am bullish on all precious metals. I believe when the bubble inevitably pops, the central banks are going to go into gold, silver, platinum, precious metals first prior to going into any Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is getting more adopted by more of the retail crowd and some smaller hedge funds. But it's certainly getting some major exposure here in 2020 that it didn't get in the last bull run to 20,000. That's my main point. The other thing somebody wanted me to touch on, and I didn't, this is the last one of Peter Schiff's main points against Bitcoin. It is the fact that it has no utility in a sense. It doesn't have any like physical purpose, Bitcoin. My argument would be its utility is the first currency on a blockchain. That's its utility. Stored perceived value on a blockchain. Now, as humans, we could say anything is valuable. We could say dirt is valuable. We can say gold is valuable. We can say silver is valuable. And we can say Bitcoin is valuable. Yes, they could come up with another one. Sure. But it's not first to hit the market, and it isn't adopted, and certainly wouldn't be adopted by major companies right off the bat if they made another Bitcoin down the road. I don't believe that would happen. So could it? Sure. Absolutely. They could make another Bitcoin, and they could somehow succeed a little bit at that other Bitcoin, but they weren't first to hit the market. It's first to hit the market, and it's done appropriately, and it already has over $300 billion in its market cap. It's already there. It's already widely adopted. So it wouldn't be, it's like if you have a perfect bike that works and you ride it perfectly, why would you need another one to show up? It's like, I already have this one and it works perfect. And everybody else rides this one too. So you have a different one. I have mine already. I already have it and it already works. And I know it might sound stupid because you go, okay, well, if they're both a bike and they both show up, well, then this one, no, it's like that might not be a good analogy, but I think you get my point. It's first to hit the market. It's first to hit the market and it's first to be adopted. It's the first currency on a blockchain. It's very important. It's very important, and it could easily become much, much bigger down the line. And is it 100% guarantee? No. No, it's absolutely not. And I am more than ready to lose all of the money that I have in Bitcoin. If I lost every dollar that I have in Bitcoin, every single cent, it wouldn't affect my quality of life at all. I'd be bummed. I'd be like, missed out on that one, lost that money. But it wouldn't change my quality of life. I'm not all in on Bitcoin. There are all in Bitcoin people, and they are all against metals and only Bitcoin. I am 90% metals, 10% Bitcoin, or 5 to 10% Bitcoin. That happened to turn into like a 20% position in my decentralized portfolio because it went up so much. I could sell half my Bitcoin, profit, and have the other half riding on the house at this point. So my risk to reward is very fair at this point. I don't really have any regrets about being in Bitcoin. Now, buying here, yeah, it's risky. Yeah, it's a speculation. But my personal strategy, and this isn't advice, all my videos aren't to be taken as advice. This is just financial education based on my opinion. Disclaimer, I have to say that every video. The way that I look at it is don't invest anything in Bitcoin that would affect your quality of life if you lost it. If it's going to affect your quality of life if you lost it, don't put it in Bitcoin. Don't invest it at all in anything if it's going to affect your quality of life. But Bitcoin is certainly worth the risk to reward. If it's getting adopted by major companies, if tomorrow, and this might happen, I said this in the last video, if Amazon decided tomorrow to say, hey, we accept Bitcoin, could you imagine? Multi-trillion-dollar company says we accept Bitcoin. Is it multi-trillion Amazon? I have to double check the market cap. I'm pretty sure it's at least over $1 trillion now. that company accepts Bitcoin as a payment method, that would be huge. But if someone told me that PayPal and Cash App were going to pop up out of nowhere like 5-10 years ago, who would have believed that this internet money would be adopted, that's completely decentralized, not tied to any government, not tied to any currency from any government, was going to pop up online and be adopted by huge companies. PayPal valued over $100 billion. Gonna get that's such a mind-boggling situation, and it's happened. It's happened, and that tidal wave is going to continue to form because eventually, Cash App starts on Bitcoin. Then PayPal's looking and going, well, our competitor's doing it. Now we got to do it. And then PayPal's going to be on Bitcoin, and then the next company, and the next company, and the next company. And you can see how that domino effect gets put in, or the avalanche effect starts going with these companies. And now you got hedge funds starting to get in Bitcoin. The first hedge fund that's in there and starts boasting about its returns in Bitcoin. Well, another one's going to go, we need a little bit of Bitcoin in our portfolio. It starts that domino effect, and that avalanche keeps going, and the snowball effect. I see it as being started. I see if there was a 1% probable likelihood of Bitcoin getting adopted, now it's probably about 5-10%. And if another big company gets in and another big hedge fund gets in, it's going to continue down that line. So again, Peter Schiff, if you are comfortable buying a mining stock, if you're comfortable getting in a mining stock on that speculation, you should be comfortable taking a small risk in Bitcoin as a small position in a decentralized portfolio, that it wouldn't affect the overall portfolio if it went to zero. It wouldn't affect your livelihood if it went to zero. It's worth the off chance that it does succeed. But to say that it's blatantly a zero while preaching very speculative mining stocks, it's not very fair. It's not very fair, and it's not very rational to just, this is a zero. This is a zero. There's no upside here when you have these huge companies getting in Bitcoin and these huge hedge funds getting in Bitcoin. Excuse me. It doesn't make very much sense. Back on the utility argument, this will be the last point of the video. The utility of Bitcoin is that it is the first currency on blockchain, and that is a huge utility to be able to send payments peer-to-peer with no central party on a blockchain, completely secured. That's huge. There's major utility in that. So to say there's no utility is not very fair. To say that it doesn't have any physical utility, okay, fine. Gold. Now, this is why I'm bullish on platinum. If you haven't watched my platinum video, go back to that. And this is funny because I'm a precious metals, major precious metals advocate, way more than I am a Bitcoin advocate. I make nothing out of talking about Bitcoin. Me and Peter Schiff both make money off of preaching gold and silver, but in this video, I'm preaching something that I make nothing off of. There's no upside in this. So please click that subscribe button and subscribe to my new Instagram page, Rob Soltan on Instagram. Rob Soltan on Instagram. Subscribe, click red button down below. Anyway, gold's utility is minuscule. Let's talk about utility, physical utility. Nobody really is using gold in electronics anymore because it's too expensive. You would rather use the different component because gold is too expensive now. It still is used somewhat, a very, very small amount of it. And we're talking about like 10% of gold is used in that, whereas like 90% of platinum is used in physical utility, industrial use. But gold on an industrial scale is minuscule. You cut out jewelry out of gold, it's like nothing. It's like nothing. So when you say, oh, it doesn't have any utility, it doesn't have any physical, industrial use, gold doesn't really have any physical industrial use. At least we're not using it for it. Like literally, if you take jewelry out of the picture, somewhere around 90%, 80-90% of gold is just our belief that it is money. And it's a good belief. It's stored money. That's our belief as human beings, that we believe this is money. It's 100% that, because literally the vast majority of gold held above ground. And by the way, there is 8 times more gold above ground than there is silver. There's more silver below ground, but there's 8 times more gold above ground because as humans, we've been storing it a while. We don't really use it. We just store it and consider it money. We consider it wealth. That is not a physical utility. other than the fact that we consider it money. Now, if humans decide that we consider Bitcoin money and we want to buy our gold with our Bitcoin and we consider this another currency online, that's the same thing. We are believing that this is money, just like we are believing this is money. Yes, it's physical. Yes, you can touch it, but we're moving to a different age. We're moving to a digital age right now where something like Bitcoin is very much so needed. Can you think about, like, just to go completely off subject? Well, it's on subject, off subject a little bit. How ridiculous is it that money is different everywhere and it's trading? These currencies are trading worldwide. Euros are worth this much dollars and dollars are worth this much yen and yens are worth this much euros. It's like, how crazy is this system right now? Can we all just agree on that? Like, how crazy is that system? It's like mind-boggling crazy. Makes no sense, really. So if you were to make a T-chart and say, what's the perfect currency of the future? Decentralized, online, doesn't have to store anything to back it. It's trusted as being money online that has a finite amount of them. 21 million Bitcoin can only be mined, and we're almost hit at 21 million at this point. It allows peer-to-peer transactions with nobody looking into it. It hits like every single mark. If you're going to talk about what you don't want money to be, you wouldn't want money to be something that is extremely hard to transact in. Paper, for example. Have you ever had to send out a wire transfer recently? I do wire transfers all day, and it is the most annoying thing. Put in the routing number, put in the account number, put in the bank address, put in the person's business address. It's like all of these different steps to send out a wire transfer. It is so annoying. And all of the eyes are on you for doing a Fed wire. It's the opposite of what you want money to be in the future. Same thing with paper currency. It's like, what a dirty way to transact. If they wanted us to continue to use paper back to nothing, if they wanted to continue using that, they would have given us higher denomination notes by now. You ever think about that? That's a point I always like to make. You would for sure have higher denomination notes than a $100 bill. Like, they had $10,000, $100,000 bills back in the early 30s, the early 1900s. It's like, I'd love a $10,000 note now. That'd be amazing. Instead, we have tellers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like, how ridiculous is this? Pennies that aren't even copper, coins that aren't even silver. We're playing with monopoly money. Can we agree on these things? And that's something that is online and blockchain based. Now, the next thing that somebody could say is we can have a gold-backed, blockchain-based cryptocurrency that is backed by gold in a vault. But then you have the situation where you have to store the money somewhere. So you eventually have some sort of centralized party that is in control. And that's why Bitcoin is such a unique thing, because we are believing that this is valuable in Bitcoin, in the internet, in online currency with nothing to back it. And I know that sounds like a major negative, and honestly, it sounds crazy. It sounds completely crazy, but we are believing that there's intrinsic value in these Bitcoins, that they are finite at 21 million, and that once it ends and you can't mine any more of them and it's ultimately finite, that because it is so widely adopted that they're going to become much more valuable because everybody is transacting in these Bitcoin. It's going to like spread like wildfire in a sense. Is it crazy? Absolutely. Is it speculative? Absolutely. Could it easily go to zero? Absolutely. Is it going to change my quality of life if it does? No. I'll still be building Mineral Exchange, and I'll still have a company in precious metals, and I'll still be majority in precious metals. So I'm not only all in Bitcoin. I just want to really firmly reiterate that. But if Bitcoin does get adopted and goes to $1 million a Bitcoin, would that affect my quality of life? Yes. Yes, it would. Rob would be driving around Lambos or Teslas. Like, it would 100% affect my quality of life if Bitcoin got adopted and went to $1 million a coin. That is why I'm in Bitcoin, on the off chance that it does get adopted. And it's not like some, day trade. It's a long-term hold. It's an insurance play for me. 5-10% of my decentralized portfolio, it's a worthwhile risk to reward for me, just like a mining stock might be a worthwhile risk to reward to Peter. So my whole argument is there's no way to count this out as an ultimate zero. This is a complete zero. You have huge companies like PayPal and Cash App, and now the possibility of some juggernaut coming in like Amazon or something to accept Bitcoin. It's very hard to call that a zero. Very hard. And I think that, Peter, you probably have helped Bitcoin more than you've hurt it, because you've brought so much more eyeballs to Bitcoin, and now it is so easy to buy Bitcoin. That's a huge factor that everybody's overlooking, how easy it is to buy Bitcoin with Cash App and PayPal. That wasn't available on the last bull run. You had to create your Coinbase, and everybody's like, Coinbase, I don't know if I trust this, but there's so much more trust behind the brands of Cash App and PayPal than a new company like Coinbase coming out of nowhere. It's like, that's huge. And the money's already sitting there. It's like you buy or you sell something, or you pay for dinner, and all of a sudden you have money in that certain spot. You have it in Cash App or in PayPal, and you're like, I already have money sitting there. I might as well try out this Bitcoin thing and buy some of that. Do you think that convenience factor is going to have any impact if Bitcoin has another FOMO situation? Absolutely. There's a finite amount of them. It's easier to get the Bitcoins, and the FOMO is hitting all-time highs again. And by the way, we're back over 18,000. So you were talking about the crash, that it fell down to 16, or it rebounded already. So I think that it's the moment from Fast and Furious. Like I said in the beginning, it's like, Paul Walker hits the nitrous too soon, and then Vin Diesel looks over and he's like, too soon, smashes his nitrous and passes him up and wins the race. I feel like it's a little too soon to be bashing on Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, it's not something that I'm all in. This is 100% going to be the biggest thing in the future, all Bitcoin. I'm not one of those completely mad individuals for Bitcoin. I just recognize that the risk to reward is absolutely worth it, in my personal opinion, just like you might be a speculator on a mining stock. With that being said, that's the video. I know I rambled a bit, but I wanted to touch on those points with Bitcoin. Kind of broad. I'm sure I missed out on a few things. So if I did, please post a comment down below. I do look at every single comment, and I do my best to get back to every single one of them. Also, again, I did start the Instagram thing, so maybe I'll put a screenshot to the Instagram, just same name as in my YouTube, just Rob Soltan. Go to Instagram. Can't miss it. I started it just yesterday. So if you want to help me get a little bit more following there on Instagram, would really appreciate it. If you do like the content, please click the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching. Signing out.